Hey everybody, this is Vincent Zeng, the Wandering Warrior, 曾焕杰流浪勇士, and I'm going to show you guys some footage from when I was in LiuQiu, Little LiuQiu, an island off the coast of Pingdong County here in Taiwan. Meanwhile, share some of my musings, announcements, and of course information about my Patreon, which I just released. Now, this island actually has something of a dark history. In fact, in the 1600s, when the Dutch were colonizing Taiwan, some of their ships would run aground LiuQiu and the crews massacred by the natives. So, the Dutch ordered a genocide of the people of this island, and this was carried out. Dutch soldiers recruiting some mainland indigenous warriors and Chinese pirates arrived on this island, forced many of the locals into hiding into the caves on this coral island, and used pitch and sulfur to smoke them out. 300 were killed and another 300 or so were enslaved. And that's that as far as the locals. Many were picked off by subsequent slave raids until by the era of Koxingya there were only maybe 13 left, and those were later removed by a Chinese colonist. Since the 1600s and that horrific massacre, colonists from Fujian have ended up coming to this island, and today there are about 13,000 descendants, and, of course, tourists that come in droves to see the marine life which this island is famous for, especially these sea turtles. Sadly, about 90% of the coral and its marine life were killed by plastic pollution. Thankfully, conservation efforts have begun reversing this. First of all, I want to say down here, snorkeling and looking at the corals and the marine life here was really a wonderful experience. People who know me well personally know that I studied wildlife conservation in my university days, which was about a decade ago. And while I'm not in the field of wildlife conservation or marine ecosystems even, that stuff has never left my heart as far as a passion and an interest, and so swimming in these corals was awesome. Taking this 30-40 minutes to snorkel among the coral reefs of LiuQiu also took my mind off my normal goals, aspirations, and dreams, which of course occupy most of my day-to-day life. But on to that. Well, in the immediate future, I am working on making sure I have a very firm foundation in Shuaijiao. Shuaijiao, as you guys know, used to be called Buku or Boh. It's basically descended from Mongolian wrestling, sort of this Manchu, Chinese, Hui wrestling style that emerged in northern China during the Qing dynasty. Now, Shuaijiao, as far as what I'm referring to, has competitions in Taiwan. They used to run at least every month. Nowadays, once or two times a year, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Unfortunately, I missed this year's Shuaijiao competition due to some kind of issue, as well as 2 judo competitions, but I am participating in a Jiaoyi Boji, a Shuaijiao jacket and striking allowed format. It's a little bit like Sanda or Chinese kickboxing, but with elbows and knees and a Shuaijiao jacket, and of course all the Shuaijiao throws are allowed, and some amount of Qingna or seizing and locking catch type stuff is allowed on the feet. I have to say I'm really excited for this. When I was younger, as a high schooler, college student age, I did some Sanda or combat karate-esque competitions, but at that time I was still, just building my foundation in praying mantis boxing, the northern Chinese Shandong Kung Fu style, and my wrestling wasn't really good yet. Now it's getting a lot better. So I'm really excited to see what I can bring to the table. It's been a long time since I've competed in this sort of mixed format, and Shuaijiao, it's been 2 years since I competed back in 2020, so I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm sure you guys are as well. Definitely going to show some footage once that's done. On the topic of Chinese martial arts, Quan Su, Gun Tao, Chinese pugilism, hand-to-hand stuff, as you guys can tell, in the past year, I've been sort of putting my feelers out into the world of Taiwanese Chinese martial arts, and I'm getting very enthusiastic about the idea of learning great ancestor boxing, Taizu Quan, Taizhou Kun. Another interesting thing to note is, as I start learning Taizu Quan, Taizhou Kun, I mean, I'm not gonna become a new person, so to speak. It's adding a new color to the palette, to the painting that already exists. And so Praying Mantis boxing, mostly from the 7-star Qixing Tangnang Quan lineage, with some 8-step Mantis stuff, Babu Tangnang Quan, with some experiences with judo and jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu in fact, Shuai Jiao, Pingdong Kuai Jiao, right, the fast wrestling style down here in Taiwan, and adding Taizu Quan to that. Honestly, I think within me is going to be formed a new Chinese martial arts style. Hell, if I codify it, maybe it's a system someday. But that's a conversation for another time, and one I'll probably elaborate more upon in my Patreon, which I'll talk about later. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, just interesting thoughts, interesting things on the horizon. In addition to hopefully starting to learn Taizhou Kun, great ancestor boxing, I'm also going to be reaching out to more of the Chinese pugilists, the Kung Fu guys out here in Taiwan, and hopefully getting some of that cool content to you guys. I'm a little bit backlogged right now, but I'm working on it. This stuff really is a full-time job. Also, I'm going to be breaking down more of my own personal background that I've already gotten good at. Praying Mantis boxing, Tangnang Quan, long fist type stuff, Chang Quan, Tan Tui, springing legs, things like that. Some of which will be on Patreon, where I'll go a little more in depth, maybe more in terms of teaching how to learn, how to pick this stuff up, how to ingrain skills. But obviously the sort of technical proposals and form breakdowns, that'll all be on YouTube as it has been, like you've seen with Gong Li Quan, Power Fist, and Lian Bu Quan, Linking Steps Fist. Also, while we're on the topic of skill sharing and hand-to-hand combat, I'm working on an online teaching platform for linking the Chinese boxing stuff with Shuai Jiao in a seamless skill set. Can't say too much right now, but that stuff is going to be going live next year, so please stay tuned for that. As for the indigenous Taiwanese stuff with the blades, the scabbard making, archery, belt wrestling, cultural things and so on, I'm going to still keep delving while I'm here in Taiwan. I am going to be leaving Taiwan next year, and I'm probably going to be in the United States for most of 2023. However, in the meantime, I'll keep delving, and while I'm stateside, I'm going to get into blacksmithing, bladesmithing, and that'll perfectly complement the scabbard working skills that I am building right now. Like the local Kun Tao or Fujianese martial arts culture here in Taiwan, the Aboriginal stuff, the native stuff is something that I'm going to have to spend time, years, gradually soaking myself into. So I've already got a good start, but this is stuff that's going to be developing more and more in the future, and of course that means more and more content for you guys. As far as my training when I'm in the United States of America, nothing's really changing as far as what I'm doing. I'm definitely going to still be doing Shuai Jiao. I'm definitely going to still be doing my Chinese martial arts, Tangnang Quan, Mantis boxing, and hopefully also doing great ancestor boxing, Taizhou Kun, Taizu Quan. But the pace of it is going to change a bit. I'm not going to have the same place that I do now, of course, but I'll have to find the substitutes, reaching out to my network out in the States. And I'm going to be competing a little differently. In Taiwan, because I don't have citizenship, some of the competitive opportunities are a bit limited, and there's other things going on aside from that. In the US, hopefully I'll be able to do both the few shuaijiao competitions there are, as well as judo and sambo, and maybe I'll even do sanda and a little MMA. We will see, depending on what kind of training setup I can secure for myself. Now, one thing I will be doing differently is when I'm stateside, I'm going to be getting back into weapons much more than I have been here in Taiwan. So some of you may know I was doing a lot of short blade stuff, eskrima. I mean, by that I mean both the Hispano Latin American stuff as well as the Filipino stuff. I had some exposure of both, and I was working those skills, getting better and better. That's something I want to get back into. And in true wandering warrior fashion, I want to be able to go to parts of Latin America as well as the Philippines to seek out the OGs that really were killing motherfuckers with this shit. So if you guys want to see me get advice from bona fide macheteros, Patreon. And again, I'm going to talk about that towards the end of this video, so stay tuned. On the topic of traditional weaponry, I'm going to be getting back into staff and other pole arms from the Chinese arsenal, as well as sabers. Sabers, as you know, were my primary traditional weapon that I was training in prior to moving to Taiwan. Did get some work in while I was here, but I'm looking forward to leveling up massively in the upcoming year. More to come as far as that's concerned, and a lot of content, I promise you. Now, in the field of traditional weaponry, obviously we got to talk about archery. As you guys know, I've been into archery ever since I was little. Started picking up Manchu archery around this time last year, right, December. I put up an awkward video of me failing at it, and since then I've gotten a lot more guidance, help, and support from the international Manchu community and a couple people out here in Taiwan. As far as Manchu archery is concerned, this kind of feeds into the other fields of interest I've had regarding folk martial arts and this sort of hunter turned warrior archetype that I've been noticing, whether it be with the ancient, well, I should say, late medieval Manchu, who later took over China and influenced China as well as the Chinese martial arts so deeply, or if we're talking about the indigenous Taiwanese martial traditions, or say the Dayaks in Borneo, the Iban, Kenya, Kayan, Bidayu, etc., or even the Amazon, North American native warriors, Alaskan, etc., etc. We're dealing with a folk martial tradition, so it's not the codified martial arts that we're used to, such as Kenjutsu or even Hungar or something like that. It's not the combat sports that we're used to as far as boxing or Greco-Roman or Muay Thai. It's a different approach to producing a warrior. And definitely a warrior, definitely not a sportsman, definitely not a civilian fighter. We're talking about a warrior, something comparable to a part-time soldier. And so the skills, no less impressive, are developed differently. One of the things that I've realized being out here doing what I'm doing is that the skill sets trained in a folk martial tradition are not easily transmitted if you're not immersing in the culture. And what is culture? Culture is a sort of lifestyle that's passed down and further built upon by a community. So I'm absolutely going to be working on my archery skills and these weapon skills and so on and so forth while I'm in America. But I'm starting to realize that not only do I need to go to the ends of the earth where these things are being practiced and hang with the people that are really immersed with it as a part of their daily lives, I need to dissect what that is, take the principles of the hunter-warrior archetype, take the principles of their particular folk martial tradition, and apply that to how I train it in my day-to-day life. All of that's to say, expect some changes as far as how I approach my training, and expect some interesting content for the future that's got to do with this particular concept. In fact, I'm going to make a YouTube video about this, and I think I'm going to release something on my Patreon for my patrons concerning that. Now, on to Patreon. My Patreon is going to be in the link below. Please consider supporting me on my journey, supporting The Wandering. I really appreciate any help I can get. This stuff is not easy. It's not easy devoting your life to this, which, you know, does not pay immediately. Really appreciate the support. There's 3 ways for you to support on Patreon. One is being an avid supporter, in which case you donate a certain amount of money every month. It goes to helping me do what I do and provide you guys with the content. The next level up is Patron of Warriorship. Not only can you see the process and be a good supporter, which is good karma, there's also going to be the Warriors Lodge for discussion and sharing, and you get to vote on The Wandering. You get to decide on things I do on my journey, and you know, that's my way of repaying you for your support. Lastly, there's a strong ally of The Wandering, in which case you get all of that plus one-on-one discussions and content requests. So again, guys, please, I urge you to strongly consider supporting me on my journey. Hop on Patreon, become a patron of mine so that I can keep doing this and better. Thank you for following me on my journey. I salute yours. Peace.